Hey guys, this is Tim's Take. I'm Tim from Chasing Collectibles, as many of you know, and I am here again with Randall.
Hello.
Okay, Randall. In light of a lot of current events in DC and Marvel, I just wanted to kind of get your input on things and
Sure.
have a discussion with you. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just thinking about things in terms of, let's say, Ezra Miller.
Yep.
Um, Now, I've been saying for a while that they are probably going to end up dropping him and probably rebooting the entire Flash movie or going a different direction. I believe that DC is pretty known for doing reboots, but
Oh yeah.
what what's your take on the whole Ezra Miller thing? I know, with all the mistakes or all the issues that have been going on with him. They
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of obvious negative press about Ezra Miller, and there's a lot of negative feedback, negative feelings towards the guy. Like, clearly he has some issues, he has some problems, and I think some people are just like quick to just say, you know what, the guy's a problem, get rid of him, and I totally respect those thoughts and those feelings. I think you have people who they look at actors and they don't care, who they are as a person. They don't care, like what their thoughts and opinions are. It's like, oh, you're just an actor, you're an actor, you just, do your job, right? And I will say, as an actor, I think Ezra Miller, he is actually very talented, I think. Um, for the hardcore Flash fans, and I'm a fan of like Barry Allen Flash. I love the Flash from TV show from the 90s. That's what made me a fan of the Flash, the character. And reading the comics, you see like what Barry Allen is supposed to look like, and so when you see Ezra Miller, I mean, I don't blame like the old school, like, hardcore the Barry Allen comic book fans. I don't blame them for like looking at Ezra and be like, oh, he shouldn't be Barry Allen. So like any opportunity to voice their opinion to try and remove him from playing Barry Allen, I totally get. I totally understand it.
mm,
I think with all the stuff that's been going on, like I know that he came out with a statement. He apologized. He is actually getting help. And I know like a lot of people are probably, skeptical. They're probably thinking like, oh, sure, he's getting help. Some people
mhm.
think he's just saying that he's getting help, so there's no real proof, you know. Excuse me.
Bless you.
And oh, sorry.
Bless you.
And there's no real proof. And but me, I'm the type of person, like, I like to give people, a chance. I do believe in people
Second.
redeeming themselves.
All right.
I believe that, people can make mistakes, they can screw up, and then they can turn around, be a better person, do better. And so I think that's hopefully what's happening with Ezra. I know that he recently went and met with some of the new bosses at Warner Brothers. He met with them, face to face,
Mhm.
and apologized to them in person. And I think it's a smart move. I don't know if that was his idea or his agent's idea, but
Yeah. Almost like a flashpoint he's trying to do, huh?
kind of, yeah. I mean, like, he's like, I don't know what it is. Like sometimes people like, yeah, they live such a strange life, right? Like being a
All right.
celebrity and being able to do things that other people can't do. So like sometimes, like, some people have that mentality of like, how far can I go?
Mm.
Like, how much can I do before I really get in trouble? Like I mean, look at guys like Robert Downey Jr., right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, Robert Downey
Iron
Jr.
Man.
actually went to prison, right? And like, imagine if he imagine if, Marvel was able to make movies back then and he was Iron Man and went to prison for what he did. Do you think
Right.
that maybe people would say the same thing, right? They'd say, "Oh, get rid of Robert Downey Jr., get rid
Mhm.
of him, recast."
Yeah, yeah,
So
you're right. I mean, nowadays Disney just, they don't want that any of that kind of publicity. You
oh,
know?
I mean, times are so different now too. Like, social media exists now, so, and like, the news and rumors, it's so much easier to spread rumors. It's so much easier for, you know, fake news. It's so much easier for things to go out there and people kind of just scoop it up and like, everybody goes through it, like I'll be on social media and I'll see like an article. I won't even read the article. I just read the headline. I read the
Mhm.
headline and I make assumptions, right? And I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
So what I've learned to do is I would take those assumptions and what I would put forth my thoughts and feelings, but I would word it in a way where I'm like acknowledging like I don't know if this is true or not. If it's true, these are my thoughts and feelings on the subject matter. If it's true, so like I think in this day and age, like you have to be very careful what you say and how you say it because people will jump to conclusions, people will make assumptions, and then through those assumptions those people are going to label you, and then they're going to like attack you, attack your character. Like people are they're very quick, they're very quick. I'm sure people used to do this stuff back then, but you know social media didn't exist, right? Like it
Right,
was just
right,
like
right.
we're just doing this amongst themselves versus you're on a social media platform where millions of people can access it, millions of people can watch it, hear it, read it, you name it. So you got to adapt or die. So like
Yeah.
in this case, you got to adapt. You got to learn what to say, how to say it, what to do, to avoid upsetting as least amount of people as you can. There's always going to be somebody that's upset, always.
Well,
And
I do hope. Sorry, I do hope it does work out for Ezra. I do
yeah,
hope that DC gives us some good content there with another movie. And
yeah, I hope so too. I hope so. Like I know DC is going through some tough times right now, and it's because of, and this happens every time a new company buys another company. Anybody who has any experience working for a company that gets bought out by another company, you know, people are going to get fired, people are going to get let go, changes are going to be made that you don't like, and we're seeing this, and it's got people worried because it involves DC, which there's a lot of characters in DC, a lot of IP that people love, so it's just people are just concerned, and then to make matters worse, you look over at what Disney's doing, and you just see like Disney being successful, and it's like you want so badly DC to have the same success, if not more, unless of course you're a huge Marvel fan that hates anything DC. Those people are just happy that DC is just you know
right, right.
struggling. But
Well, I mean,
yeah, and yeah, you just have so many fans that they want DC just to do well. That's it. And
yeah,
and hopefully Discovery will fix a lot of mistakes. Hopefully they'll turn the ship around. But unfortunately, they're kind of crashing that ship right now a little bit, and then have to rebuild, refix, and then get it back on course.
I would like to see that too. I mean, honestly, I'm tired of seeing the constant. I feel reboots and it's like the past few years it's been pretty rough.
Yeah,
I
I mean it's amazing, like how divided everyone's thoughts are on so much of the subject matter, because like people talk about like, oh, doing fan service is bad, and then but then you have people that like it, so it's confusing. Like when Spider-Man No Way Home, right? That was fan service. They gave the fans what they wanted. You wanted to see all three Spider-Men, together in the movie,
that was
you know?
great.
Yeah, and so, I think at this point, DC, like, you have a lot of people who are Snyder fans, and a lot of people who aren't,
Mm.
and yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like me, and I think even what's funny though is like you have people who aren't even Snyder fans. Those that did watch the Justice League Snyder cut admitted like, oh, this was better than what Joss Whedon worked on and put out for Warner Brothers.
It
You know,
was. I mean, in
yeah.
my opinion, I
Oh,
loved
totally, totally,
it.
yeah.
It was a much longer movie, but it didn't feel like it was. It
Right.
was put together in such a way that there was a lot more things explained. We had a lot more, cameos of characters. Um and and I know a lot of people there's a lot of mixed feelings on Ben Affleck being Batman, but I loved him as being Batman.
Me too. Me too. I mean, he to me is still the most comic accurate, closest to the comic accurate live action screen film Batman. Just because like, that I mean, to this day, the Batman v Superman, as much as people want to hate on it, the warehouse scene where you see Batman fighting all those guys, like, I'm
Right.
sorry, that scene alone makes the whole movie. That scene alone, so but yeah, I mean, like, DC's got like, what is it? What was it? What movie are they coming out with next? Black Adam, which
Yeah.
I'm very excited for. I'm very hopeful for. I like Dwayne Johnson. I think many people have been waiting a very long time for him to finally play this character.
Now, how awesome would it be to see him fight Superman?
Oh, of course, absolutely.
I know
Um,
it's right away jumping on the idea of him fighting Shazam, but
yeah,
I,
I think what's great about Dwayne Johnson is that he's a fan. I think he definitely is a fan. Yeah, and at the same time, I think like he's great at marketing. And I think it's a combination of he likes making people happy. He likes making his fans happy, and he
yeah,
appreciates his fans because obviously without his fans, he wouldn't have the level of success that he has.
right,
So he wants to keep that that balance. He wants to keep people happy. And so he's super invested in DC, and I think he also sees the financial potential. Like I mean, we see all the financial success that Disney's had with Marvel, and we're still like, even though the DC extended universe has been around for almost 10 years, still hasn't reached the level of success that not even half the level of success that the Disney Marvels hit. So they're still in the beginning stage,
yeah,
which is kind of disappointing because Man of Steel came out 2013. We're hitting 10 years next year. The most financially successful DC film that they've had is Aquaman. I believe it's the only DC extended universe film to have made over $1 billion. You
wow.
know, yeah, and
It even beat
so
Wonder
yeah.
Woman, the
Oh
first
yeah.
Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Man,
Now, I mean, with all the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp trial, let's be real, there's a lot of negative press with Discovery and Warner Brothers right now, so much, so that is going to spread. That's going to overlap with people wanting to support and see the films.
right,
So like I'm sure Aquaman 2 is not going to make $1 billion, which sucks, because James Wan's a fantastic director. I'm sure he's going to deliver like beautiful action scenes. I thought the action in the Aquaman film was fantastic. Like only like James Wan and Zack Snyder are the only two directors that have really shown some of the best action scenes. Like the first Wonder Woman had some great action scenes as well, but I think the level of action, the level of the amount of action on those films. I think Aquaman and the Justice League and Batman v Superman. It's more than what what excuse me, more than what Wonder Woman has given. And obviously Wonder Woman 1984 was a disappointment for a lot of people.
hmm
There were things I liked about the film, but this goes to show you that Patty Jenkins she's a fan of the old Wonder Woman TV show, so like she wanted to make it more like that. And I hope directors learn their lessons. I hope that they learn, like, listen, pay homage to the previous, works of the characters, but don't try to revert and go back to that. Like Batman and Robin was trying to be more like the Adam West Batman, and that failed. So to make your Wonder Woman movie to be more in line and closer to what the Wonder Woman show was in the 70s, another example of, here we go. Like, people didn't like it. They just didn't like it, and so they got to find a way to work together to unite. And this is why people insist, like, you have Kevin Feige who oversees all that stuff. So they need someone doing that for DC. I know that they recently hired, no, I'm sorry, I take that back. They haven't hired the guy yet, but he's the front runner. And I looked at his resume, and it's a very impressive resume. I can only hope that, he understands the characters, the comics, and the IP,
Right.
and that he'll be able to deliver what Feige does for Marvel.
Right.
But yeah, with all the, I'm mentioning the negativity of what what Warner Brothers is doing and what they're going through with Discovery. Sadly, because of that, they've lost so much money. They don't have a lot of money. They're only going to be releasing 2 more films for the rest of the year, and that's going to be
Yeah.
Black Adam and the Harry Styles movie. I forget, it's something
Right.
darling.
Which,
Uh,
which I'm sorry. Which, well, before I ask this question, so the next Aquaman movie, you don't see them recasting Mera?
so I hope they recast Mara, but I mean, who knows at this point? Like the film is mostly finished,
Uh-huh.
but it did get pushed back. It got pushed back to December, so there is room to film new scenes,
Yeah,
do some reshoots. So there
absolutely.
is a chance. There is a chance that they could recast Mara. I
Right.
think that if the people at Warner Brothers are paying attention to social media and they see the memes and they see the stuff, I think, the smart thing to do is give, and this is where the fan service comes in, right? Give the people what they
Right.
want. There's
Exactly.
already a good number of people, I think, that have pointed out an actress that they want to replace, and I think it'd be great. I think it'd be great if they got her.
Yeah.
Um, Especially all the Game of Thrones fans would be super happy, right?
Mhm.
And which would just add on to, like, because they came out with the prequel show House of the Dragon, so like it seems like the fandom for Game of Thrones is kind of coming back. So that would be great. That would be great if they
Yeah.
did that, So, but we'll see. I know that the good news is that after the trial, after Amber Heard losing, that they have already decided, like, they're cutting all of the scenes that she filmed for Aquaman 2. They're out.
Right.
Originally, it was like only going to be like 10 or 15 minutes of footage, and
Mhm.
they had cut it down to 10 to 15 minutes of footage, and then now they're cutting it out. So the person I feel bad for the most is James Wan, because imagine you're a director, and you're just doing your job. You're putting together the film
Right.
based on the script,
Yeah.
and then all of this internet drama happens, and then all
Yeah.
of a
Like
sudden
you're
you're
just
like,
like,
well,
yeah.
now, yeah, now he's like, shoot, now I have to change this, you know and then he'll
Mhm.
make changes, and then they come back to him and tell him, you have to change more, so that man is constantly changing stuff for that film. It's almost like he has to make 2 movies for the price
Right.
of one. And it's a shame. It's a very big struggle. I would say that Jason Momoa, I'm sure, has been inconvenienced, but I mean, I still see the guy walking around with a big smile on his face, like
Yeah.
that's a guy he loves life, and he's, happy with his fan support and success, and not to mention, like, the news of Ben Affleck filming a scene for Aquaman 2, you
Yeah.
know, which,
Yeah.
and again, this is where, because we have the divided audience. You have people who like Snyder, and you have a lot of people that are campaigning. what's crazy is out of all the fans, right? Out of all the fans that support all the different fandoms, right?
Mhm.
Um, the Snyder fans, right? Because I mean, like, I'm sure some of them aren't even DC fans; they're just fans of Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
But the fandom and support that Zack Snyder gets, um, you have to give them props. Like those are amazing fans. They're the only ones that have gone to these huge levels of above and beyond. Like not even the Marvel fans, right? Not even the Marvel fans uh, you know, are even half that, dedicated to it. Like they'll go on social media, they'll talk about it, but you're not going to see them rally together and like, put up billboards and like,
Yeah.
go on Twitter and hashtags and just, do all this stuff. Um, so I mean, I admire that. I admire it. I respect it. I know that, some people painted a bad picture because like I'm sure there are some fans that are like kind of like jerks or they're,
Nah.
and you have maybe a few quote unquote Snyder bros that they would call
Mhm.
them, and so they, and the way that some of those people would act and respond, they kind of just assume. Here we are with assuming, right? Like they just assume that, like all the fans are like that, which they aren't. I've been called a Snyder bro, and like I wasn't like a jerk. I wasn't mean to anyone, like if they wanted to insult me, I was like, okay, whatever. I get what your viewpoint is. I get what your thoughts on Zack Snyder fans are, I don't blame you, but it's misleading. It's misleading,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so that's the thing is like right now people feel like the fan base is divided. Um, but at the end of the day, I think people just they want a good movie. They want a good movie. They want to enjoy a movie,
Mm-hmm.
and so hopefully I'm part of the support for Snyder coming back. This is what I want. I want him to come back, finish his story, finish everything that he originally wanted to do, right, and lead it into a crisis. Let's get a crisis. Let's get a reboot, right? I mean, Jason Momoa after Aquaman 2 probably only has one more Aquaman movie. He's done. Gal Gadot basically said after Wonder Woman 3, she's done, unless, she does like some Justice League movies. Henry Cavill, I mean, even if you gave him a quote unquote Man of Steel 2, even though Batman v Superman was marketed as a sequel to Man of Steel, when in reality it was more of a Batman film. Um, like yeah, like you can just continue his story and you can continue Batman's story through Justice League, right? And then that's it. It's done, and then recast, right? You restart the universe fresh, whole new casting of Batman, Superman, and then and do it like from the ground up where they, you're actually building the relationships. Everything that basically like Disney did with Marvel, that whole build up,
Yeah.
like I think people want that, like when Batman and Superman first meeting in Batman v Superman, that isn't what people really wanted. They wanted conflict, but not that level of conflict. They wanted them to eventually come together, work together, and you know, and build a friendship, and build a team, build that trust, that rapport, and it's tough to do that. It's too tough to do that with those characters because they have so much history.
Be a really good finisher to all that.
Yeah.
Simply do a crisis movie. Do one or two crisis movies.
Mhm.
Make sure that Dark Side plays a big role in it,
Sure.
and then go into Flashpoint, and at that point redo everything. Just and
Yeah.
at whatever it is that they want to do at that point, new, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Over.
mean, the idea of Crisis was to converge and bring all the worlds together, right? And
Yeah.
and by the way, it would be just Crisis in name. It wouldn't be actually copying what Crisis on Infinite Earths does.
Yeah.
I know it's easier to just do Flashpoint, right? It's easier to do something like that.
But they have to go.
Regardless of what they do and how they do it, so long as it's it makes sense, and you make it understandable for the fans. You make it understandable that like we're done. Like we finished the Snyder. We've we've finished the, and I'm sure like there's all the people who are anti-Snyder will be super happy about it, right?
Right.
I mean, you can, the thing is, you make the Snyder fans happy by letting Snyder finish his stuff, right?
Mhm.
And then when you finish Snyder stuff, then everyone's on the same page.
The thing
Yeah.
is that it can tie into remember when they did Crisis on the Flash on the
Yeah.
show?
Yeah.
So it can tie right into that,
It
especially
could.
at that point in time when Ezra had met
Yeah.
um that version of
Yeah.
Barry Allen.
You
And
know, it's a crazy idea
what?
is now that you're mentioning like, the Crisis on Infinite Earths, the Flash, the CW, because like the CW, it seems like the CW universe seems to be coming to a close with the cancellation of a lot of the shows, with
Yeah,
Flash ending.
I can't.
Um, I think it'd be great, and it's a total missed opportunity because we have a multiverse. You could carry on those characters, but give them like a movie,
Right.
you know, and so the CW universe can carry on, but you'll be making them as movies, and as movies they'll have a bigger budget, better budget, and you'll have all the fans that love the characters and love the show that will jump in because they want to see it continued in some format,
Right.
but this time you're doing it as a film, and you can and then you can state that like this is Earth so and so, which they've done on the show,
Yeah.
and they can state that in the movie, and like you could still get the CW characters but in a movie, you know
Yeah.
if Warner Bros was smart enough to do that, and it's like they don't have to make 10, 20, 30 movies, just make a few, right?
Yeah.
Make a few movies, make them really good movies, and by doing that you're giving like really good closure, right? Because like you'll probably have people who watch the shows, and when they see the last episode they're like, oh, that's not how I wanted it to end, or like, oh, I wish they would have did this, or wish they would have done that. They could do that, right? But they could do that in
Right.
the movie.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I bet you Snyder would be a good guy to get it done. I mean, you got two of his 4 hour long movies.
I actually, I'll disagree. I think if
Yeah.
anyone's going to make those movies, it should be the guys who were running the CW series. It should be Mark Guggenheim and Greg Berlanti.
Mm.
Let them like full hands on, just make those movies. In fact, they wrote the script. Berlanti, I think he co-wrote the script. If he didn't, he was at least a producer.
Right.
But Berlanti and Guggenheim worked on the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds.
Ah.
Yeah, no, but listen, that wasn't their fault, right? It
Uh,
wasn't their fault. It was Warner Brothers interfering with what Berlanti and Guggenheim worked, because apparently there was like 5 different scripts for Green Lantern, and out of the 5 scripts, Warner Brothers, not Berlanti, not Guggenheim, but Warner Brothers, they chose the worst script.
mhm.
Like Guggenheim even mentioned like they had a script because technically the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie was supposed to technically become the beginning of the DC cinematic universe, but because
Mhm.
it bombed, they discarded it, and then they were like, Man of Steel will be the beginning of the DC extended universe, but Green Lantern was supposed to be the beginning of it, and Guggenheim had written a cameo for Clark Kent to appear in that film to show like Superman's there, and Warner Bros was like, nope, and so it was just one of those like those guys, what they did for the CW, they would have done that for the films,
So
you
you
know?
don't think, even looking at the shows,
Yeah.
that you don't think that a movie version, okay? I mean, having them work on a movie
Hmm.
that it would just look kind of cheesy.
They're old school television, right? So old school television, they have to do 22 episodes, right?
Mhm.
And you have a budget for the entire season, per episode. So that's why there's some scenes where the graphics just look so bad. They look
Yeah.
bad. They're cheap because they are cheap because they're on a budget.
Yeah.
They're so the CW television series with that many episodes and with the budget they have, they're so restricted, right? They're restricted, like you give them a movie budget, right? You give them a movie budget, you're going to get better graphics, right? You're going to get film graphics,
Right.
and and not to mention like you're instead of like a 20, because 22 episodes, that's like 20 hours, right? It's like 20 hours of like footage,
Right.
like where you're making a movie and you only need 2 hours, so like it's like basically taking all the best parts of a full season of The Flash and putting them into like 2 hours of a movie. You'd be like, your head explodes. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, look at, oh, he did
Yeah.
this and he did that and they did this and they did that. Like they have to spread all the good stuff out in a
Mhm.
22 episode, 1 hour show season.
Right.
But in a movie, you don't have to do that. In a movie, you get to take all the best parts, put it together in one story. Like technically, they had a script for a Flash movie, and what they did was they took the script from the Flash movie and they spread it out, and that was the first season of the Flash.
Okay. All
You
right.
know, so like the Berlanti and Guggenheim are very underrated. If they had just went with the best script. By the way, there was another script for Green Lantern where Alan Scott Green Lantern was in it, and he was working for Checkmate. So they were going to establish Checkmate, which is basically kind of like Shield, but for DC.
Mhm.
And that Alan Scott was basically monitoring metahumans, monitoring people with powers in the DC Earth, and that would have been cool. That would have been cool
Yeah.
if they had that in the Green Lantern movie. They didn't do that. Again, it's like the heads of Warner Brothers. And not to mention they loved the idea that the movie was really short because they thought, oh, cool, we'll have more screenings, and so more screenings means we'll make more money.
Yeah.
And of course, if you watch the after credit scene of Green Lantern, you see Sinestro, and let's be honest, Sinestro was like one of the best parts of that movie.
Yeah.
And I'm 100% confident had they done a sequel to Green Lantern and it was focused around Sinestro being the villain, that sequel would have redeemed the franchise, and it would have exploded. It would have done really, really well.
Yeah.
And and Warner Brothers again ball. It's like
Right.
because they have no clue who they have and what they're working with. You
Yeah.
know, they're just looking at numbers. They look at numbers. They're like, oh, this didn't do well. Lots of stuff doesn't do well when it first starts out. Seinfeld, right? Most people know who Jerry Seinfeld is. They know the great show Seinfeld.
Yeah.
That show almost got canceled in its first season. And then what did the NBC say? What did they do? They're like, you know what? Let's give them a chance. Let's give them a second season, and let's see, if they can redeem themselves, if they can like really make this into a good show. And it was
Yeah.
the smartest decision they ever made. And so that's another problem with Hollywood is they're not taking enough risks. It's like if you don't make a lot of money the first time around, you're discarded. You're done. Like move on to the next thing, and let's hope that makes a lot of money.
So I want. I'm sorry. I wanted to quickly start moving on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So we just talked about our favorite Batman, Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
And I think he was awesome. He's great as a as like big bulky fighter, and he was definitely, he had much more of that Dark Knight feel to him.
Oh sure.
But recently we had James Patterson as another type of Batman, and to me he was
Robert Pattinson.
Right, I'm sorry, Robert Pattinson.
Yeah,
he was far better of a detective Batman than any other Batman I have ever seen.
He's obviously a good actor. Robert Pattinson's a good actor. Matt Reeves is a great director. But even like I'll give the movie credit. In my opinion, it's an okay film. I think the movie was too long.
Yeah, definitely too long.
I think the movie was too long. Like if they re-edited it, I rate the movie as a C.
Yeah.
If they had made it shorter and re-edited it, I'd give it a B. I think like, you know, I still prefer Nolan's Batman. And the reason I bring up Nolan's Batman is because, you know, Matt Reeves is making a grounded, realistic Batman film. And it's like, we already got that. We got that with Christopher Nolan. The only thing that I can say that makes Matt Reeves' Batman film better than Christopher Nolan's Batman film is the fight choreography. Um, Christopher Nolan is just garbage. You know, sadly, in my opinion, he's garbage when it comes to fight choreography. Matt Reeves beat him in that. You know,
Yeah,
but
dude, you can't knock the detective skills. You know, I mean, when Batman when he entered a room
yeah,
and you knew that he was studying every angle, every
yeah,
single detail
yeah.
of the crime scenes.
But here's the problem that I have with it. Right, everyone's like, oh, like it was cool seeing him use the detective skills, and then the argument is, oh, it's only his second year as Batman. You know, and the thing is that, you know, I would have preferred, like, the thing I like about Batman is like he's supposed to be one of the greatest detectives. If you're a great detective, you're gonna solve it, right? You're gonna solve it and you're gonna win. And he, you know,
Yeah, he didn't.
yeah, he didn't. The
He
Riddler,
didn't
you
figure it
know,
out.
the Riddler technically won.
Yeah,
You know, and you know, the whole ending of that film where Batman's like, you know, oh, I'm not gonna just be vengeance. You know, I'm gonna give the city hope. You know, like I don't care about that. You know, like
yeah,
you know, and it's just, you know, the detective scenes, are they the best detective scenes we've seen in a live action Batman film? Yes. However, he just still doesn't come off as a good detective, you know.
right.
And so if you're going to go the detective route, and again the argument is, oh, he's still new, you know, he's still like second year Batman. It's like, yeah, I get it, I get it.
Yeah.
It's still not what I want. Still
And I
not what I want.
mean, and granted, that definitely was far from my favorite Batman film. I was, I'm strictly just, really appreciating the aspect of him being a detective, and
Yeah.
but as far as him being, as far as the Riddler goes, oh gosh, that was I can't think of anything nice to really say. It was just a lot of bellowing, and it's a lot of moaning. It was
Oh, it's not the Riddler, man. I mean, it's Riddler in name, but it's the Zodiac killer, you know.
Yeah,
And it's disappointing because like everyone's like, oh, the Riddler was so great. And it's like, no, if you really understood what type, like the best Riddler still is from the Batman animated series,
yeah,
uh, which is voiced by John Glover, who was in Smallville. He played
yeah,
Lionel Luthor, and it's still the best Riddler, you know. And that's what I want. I want the guy who's basically super smart, but you know, obviously has some problems and some issues, you know,
yeah,
and he feels like he can't find anybody that's equally as smart as him, and he finds Batman a challenge, you know, and so he's pushing Batman, and Batman. I think what's great is Batman in this case is the underdog, and he surprises people, you know, and that's the relationship that Batman and Riddler have that I wanted to see on film, and we didn't get that. We got
yeah.
a Zodiac killer leaving clues. You know, I mean, I love Seven. I think it's a great film, and I think like people love to compare the Batman to Seven, but it's not what I wanted.
Well, I really appreciate your time, Randall.
Yeah,
And
thank
with
you for
that,
having me.
we'll talk definitely more a little bit later
Yeah.
and discuss a lot more things on Tim's Take. Till then, keep chasing, guys.